My name is Max Rodriguez, and for my drug project, I have chosen to write about penicillin G potassium, which is what you are looking at right here. This is its molecular structure. What is it? And why was it chosen? Well, originally, I wanted to make this project about nitrous oxide, known as laughing gas, but unfortunately, when I did a bit of more research, I learned it does not have three functional groups, so I had to switch it to this one, which I thought would be more appropriate, really, because a lot of us here have probably already heard about the antibiotic known as penicillin, um, and many of us here probably have either taken or will take microbiology, and in that class, you learn more about antibiotics such as penicillin and how they work. Penicillin G potassium specifically, according to the National Library of Medicine, is the potassium salt form of penicillin G, which means it's sort of a powdered form of the antibiotic. And of course, it is a natural form of penicillin. And according to the clinicinfo.gov website I've looked at, it is used to treat severe forms of infections of syphilis, meningitis, pneumonia, some certain cases of Lyme disease, and certain staphylococcus infections. It has to be taken via injections, though, because if it is taken orally, the stomach acids could dissolve it, um, and it would basically be useless. It is mostly used in a medical setting, such as a hospital or a clinic, because it is such a strong antibiotic. It has to be closely monitored to minimize the chances of the bacteria becoming drug resistant. Functional groups I'm going to be focusing on for this antibiotic are the beta-lactam ring, the benzo group, and then the carboxylic acid salt group. The beta-lactam ring is a polar ring, and it's the reason for the drug's antibacterial reactions. It binds to bacterial enzymes which inactivate them, and therefore inhibit cell wall synthesis because they are needed for that process. The benzo group, on the other hand, determines the range in which the penicillin G would be most effective, which simply put, it determines whether or not it is effective against a certain kind of bacteria, and in this case, penicillin G potassium is more effective against gram-positive bacteria rather than gram-negative. This group also makes it acid liable, which is the main reason as to why this antibiotic cannot be taken orally, because the stomach acid pH levels would render it useless, pretty much. And of course, we have the carboxylic acid salt group, which is the main reason as to why the beta-lactam ring can bind to bacterial enzymes. It is basically a negatively charged ion, or it contains negatively charged ions that target positively charged amino acids on the bacterial enzyme, which is what allows for the binding to actually happen. Uh, this salt group also makes this drug more water soluble, which helps make a more stable form of the drug that needs to be injected intravenously or intramuscularly. And of course, now we have to mention the pros and cons, because, I mean, every drug out there has its pros and cons. The pros for this drug would be, obviously, it has a high effective rate when used correctly. As mentioned before, if used incorrectly, the bacteria could form a drug resistance, which would make it a lot harder to deal with. It is useful for a number of infections, some of which I've listed already. such as pneumonia, syphilis, meningitis. And it has been around since the 1940s, so it does have a bit of credibility since it's been around and used for such a long time. And now for the cons. Um, there is a risk of allergic reaction, and I believe that's just for most drugs out there. It cannot be taken orally, so if you do have a fear of needles, I'm sorry. Uh, this is kind of the most you can do for this form of penicillin G, at least. Um, and of course, I already mentioned it has a risk of developing drug-resistant bacteria if not used correctly, and it has known side effects such as nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. That is sourced from dailymed.gov. And of course, it wouldn't be a college presentation without me showing you my sources. Here they are. The first two are websites, and then the last one is a PDF version of a packet, an informational packet of the drug.